Going to happen on Capitol Hill. It was on the internet and nothing happened today, although security there has been over the top since January 6th. The optics, well, talk about the optics and talk about the practicality of all this and the politics with Congressman Brad Wenstrup, Republican of Ohio. He's a member of the House Intel Committee and Ways and Means Committee. And sir, welcome to Newsmax. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Good to be with you. Thanks for having me tonight.
Hey, I'm glad nothing happened on Capitol Hill, even though all kinds of bulletins were out there that, you know, there could be some major weird scene, really far-flung corners of the internet saying Donald Trump is coming back today. Obviously, nothing happened. It seems like the FBI lately is always getting it wrong. When they say nothing's going to happen, something happens. When they say, you know, the opposite. What do you think of all this?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. I'm a soldier, and I served a year in Iraq, and I was at a place called Abu Ghraib prison a couple years after the scandal there, and we got attacked 3-4 times a week. We usually had pretty good intelligence to let us know when something was going to happen and when we needed to be more alert than others, but we were always prepared, regardless whether it was a moment's notice or otherwise, to have a quick reaction force and to get into place. As far as today's concerned, well, I guess the day's not over. We were certainly told that there were threats, and I'm not playing that down because there very well may have been threats out there that we weren't aware of. I sit on the Intelligence Committee. I got nothing as far as that goes. And so I'm not always sure who's making these decisions as we're on the Capitol. What was really interesting is yesterday, the Democrats and the House of Representatives decided that we should all go home last night. So we stayed, and rather than having some of our votes today, we stayed in D.C. and we voted late into last night to finish up today's work. And the reason was because of threats. And I just find it interesting that it was enough for the House to want to leave and not be present today, but the Senate still remained there. And I think it might be a good idea if at some point Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi stood there together and answered a few questions as to why some of these decisions are being made. And look, if that force out there today was some kind of a deterrent, that's fine. But I think, you know, this is America and this is the people's house. And, you know, we had an incident that happened, and I'm not playing that down. We don't know what the rules of engagement were that day. We don't know what they were expecting, but we obviously weren't able to respond to it as quickly as we would have liked. And so that's what we need to have in place. But it's just very confusing as to why the Senate was in session and we were not.
I know. Look, I understand. I respect everything you just said. I agree with it. I think politics is at work here. All the over-the-top security measures seem to be telegraphing, look what we have to do because of those crazy Trump supporters. That's the message that seems to be coming from the left-leaning Congress. Yeah. I do want to ask you about the troops. There are still thousands of them on Capitol Hill. Did you see this? Reports are that they're getting crummy chow food, and you know, it's rotten. It's several days old, and they're just not being well cared for. This is unsat, and quite frankly, these reports have now been around for over a month or so.
You know, if those pictures that you put up are accurate, that's very disgusting. Like I said, I served in Iraq for a year. We never had anything like that, and we were in the middle of a true war zone. And so that's something that certainly needs to be addressed. But I don't know that they need to be there. I haven't seen an intelligence report that would warrant that. But I agree with you. I think this is, at this point, overkill. It's a bad image for America. You know, when it happened on the 6th, I was pretty proud of how we all came back and finished our work that day. In other words, we are not going to be deterred by this. And that's really the way we should be responding now. You know, I find it also interesting if you think about the idea of an insurrection, and I'm not playing down the 6th of January by any means, but don't forget June 14th of 2017, when a lone gunman came to the ballpark in Alexandria and if not for Capitol Police, 20 to 30 members of Congress might have been killed because we were sitting ducks sitting inside of these cages. And I can remember Paul Ryan coming out after that saying, you know what, an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. And we are not seeing that type of camaraderie coming from the Democrats at this point. And it does seem like a lot of political theater, and especially when you see that the Senate's there and we're not.
Yeah, yeah. Camaraderie. It would be nice if there was some of that. Hey, I know you had it in Iraq, and actually you mentioned your service there. We have some photographs of your time. Looks like here you are with an Iraqi soldier. You mentioned Abu Ghraib prison outside of an attack helicopter here, and it looked like you got to work with kids quite a bit. Were you in the medical corps?
Yeah, so I'm a surgeon, and I was chief of surgery at Abu Ghraib prison. We were in charge not only of taking care of our troops, but taking care of the enemy. I operated on Chemical Ali. You may remember that name. He's the man responsible for the genocide of tens of thousands of Kurds. It was a very interesting mission. And, before we left for Iraq, actually, we were addressed by General Honore. He spoke to us, and it was very motivational. I remember the things that he said, and I started to include it in speeches when I came back. And he talked about how we're about to carve out our chapter in history. And I have some concerns about the investigation that's coming up, because I can tell you, as someone who ran a private medical practice, and as a soldier, and as a member of Congress, when you're addressed with issues as a leader, you've got to get all your information before you start making comments. Yeah. And you've heard General Honore, unfortunately, even before he was appointed to lead this investigation, talking about calling the Capitol Police stupid, ignorant, or complicit, and I think complicit. And that's totally inappropriate. That's the kind of thing that if you're on a jury, you're thrown off that jury right away.
He raised some pretty, I thought, valid concerns about the Capitol Police. Forgive me. It was what he said about Trump supporters that I found deeply offensive. General Honore, by the way, I don't think we have a picture of him, but he also was made famous in the aftermath of Katrina. He helped out down there, and now he's involved in this. Hey, we got to go for now, but Congressman Wenstrup, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I applaud his service, but there's a little partisanship seems to be going on, unfortunately.
Yeah, totally, totally. Briefly, what year were you in Iraq?
2005, 2006.
We crossed paths. I was there that time as well, as a journalist, not in uniform. But
I understand.
Thank you, Congressman. All the best.
And thanks for coming to see us. All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.